So pleasure to be the first one to speak, because obviously everyone's like still sleeping. And when I was invited for the DAOFest, I was figuring out, okay, what is the thing we're building to do with the DAO? And so I add a lot of things, and I haven't speak at other places before. So first, let me introduce what I'm doing and what is Maskbook and what I've done before. So Maskbook is a mask over you-know-who, mostly Facebook. And you can enjoy decentralized web upon Facebook right now without wait for the Web 3.0. And the problem of today's internet, as we know for many years, that the general public are aware of the problem of Facebook, the data leakage, the Cambridge Analytica, but there's nowhere else to migrate. They heard of words from like the new People's Web, the new decentralized web, even from the HBO Silicon Valley show and that new internet. But the barrier to enter that the new world is super high. And from 2017 to now, I don't think the barrier is lower. Still a very high barrier. The program of migration is always the same. Take two examples. The first one is Telegram. You can take friends and data on existing platform like Facebook and Twitter with you on Telegram. Even though it has more security and privacy compared to Facebook and Twitter. Should I? Okay, I just ignore him, yeah. And the truly secure service like the Onion network and the dark web is either too geeky or is condemned by mainstream media. Usually people condemn these services are used by terrorists or child porn stuff. None of these really geeky services surpass the DAU of 1 million users. So the real problem is, can we have the efficiency with privacy control and data ownership? And why do we need to migrate? I mean, why just can't we stay in Facebook and Twitter and WeChat and whatever platform you want to use? Just stay there and protect yourself and own your data and enjoy the new web. Is that possible? If it's possible, how can we do that? So that's why we start to build Maskbook. It's a very simple solution coming to my mind back in 2017, but we realized seeing in 2019 that you can post on Facebook without the platform able to view it or read it. And we use the decentralized ID and compatible with all blockchain, mainly Ethereum. There's no centralized server, which means we're under no jurisdiction, but we're DeFi-friendly, which means you can build mini apps or stuff on top of us, also on top of Facebook. And the very core reason we do that is we want to view all the internet giants today, like Facebook, Twitter, WeChat, as an infrastructure. This being said in many years, and this has been seen by many other companies, but I think none of them really achieve that. So how to achieve that? Here's a small example of Maskbook on Facebook. That you have a broad extension and mobile app that allow people to post, comment or post tweet or program on Facebook or any SMS without let platform know it. So that's super easy to understand usage for DevCon. And you post the gibberish, then it turns into some message on Facebook. And only your friends who with the proper key can see that. Let's say this guy have this key pair every day. Then I choose this guy as a recipient and just refresh. And you see that. And you can chat over Facebook without letting Facebook know what you're doing. So basically you're building a dark web on top of the current internet. But that's not enough. I mean, people really care about privacy, but people don't really use the plugin or really use another software for that purpose. Even though that's really cool, and the migration it costs pretty less than compared to Telegram or Signal. So next thing we're gonna do is not only post encrypted message. What if we can post US dollar money on Twitter? and let people in like Middle East, in China, declare the US dollar stablecoin on Twitter. That's not achievable in the past 20 years, that if I send the red packet on WeChat, if I send money on WeChat in RMB, that's only Chinese citizen can declare that. If I send a PayPal link on eBay, only a US person can declare that US dollar. What if we can do that on Twitter? So here is when you install Maskbook and when you declare a red packet on Twitter, it takes like 5 seconds, depends on the network condition of Ethereum. And you say thank you to the guy who sent you a red packet. So basically we can avoid to be honest, a sanction list that people can use stablecoin on Twitter. And they can use Ethereum on Twitter without letting them know, without using any API of Twitter or Facebook, because it's all open web. And that reminds me of the early days of browser, of the internet. I was a journalist before I found my own company, so I do have an interview with those OGs of internet. So that during 90s, the situation is pretty much alike right now. So Microsoft is the monopoly that day. The Windows is the evil software. And did Linux win the software war, win the operating system war against Microsoft Windows? I don't think so. I think the Netscape Navigator actually bring a new opportunity to this war. That you actually create a layer on top of Windows. You use Windows API, you build the software for Windows that is a browser. And through that browser, you enter a new world called Internet or called World Wide Web. And then you can build something on top of the web, which means you can build an operating system within the browser. Turns the browser into an OS, so the operating system itself is no longer an evil monopoly again. So that's why I think after 10 years, people really don't contain Microsoft as an evil monopoly again, because they don't really important anymore, even though everyone still used software. The same thing happened between AT&T or any major telecom company and WhatsApp. So WhatsApp or WeChat or any IM, they are not really decentralized, but they use your cell phone number as your identifier. That's some kind of ID, even though it's not decentralized, some kind of centralized ID system that AT&T and state governments of different countries have many effort and put that in usage for like decades. And what WhatsApp and Messenger is doing is just try to use that identifier to squeeze out the network fat of the AT&T SMS or any major telecom communications SMS. Then make it less centralized. Basically, make it compatible with all the programs. You can write programs on WhatsApp. You can write a bot. You can send image. You can send audio, which means there's more space for developers. There's more freedom. So that's how they squeeze the value from the AT&T into the WhatsApp. So I guess the same thing will happen in our generation in this decade, as we don't really want to build another Facebook, Twitter, anything. I've seen many experiments on that, Voice.com from EOS or Status.im, even though they're really cool. I do appreciate their effort and I use them, a lot, but I don't think they can achieve the mass adoption. It's not really because they have it's not really because they don't have money or they don't have manpower or something. It's just because the utility for chatting, the utility for socialing is already been occupied by some monopoly for like 10 years. It's like Windows. You can't just build another OS and take it down. So the best way to do it is to learn from history. We add a layer on top of Facebook and Twitter. And the layer is more decentralized compared to the current internet. And obviously, Facebook and Twitter have no way to shut us down because we don't use any API. We are pure decentralized. There's no server to cut us down. So we can also, as I demoed before, we can support stablecoin transaction, red packet, and you can even transfer and auction CryptoKitty on Twitter, and even migrate your Twitter contents to Facebook. That's all doable. So eventually, it's a layer on top of every social network, and force them become a utility company like Microsoft Windows, like AT&T. or the old evil monopoly. That will take years, and that will be not achievable without the help of the people like people in the Ethereum Foundation, people doing DeFi, people doing NFT. But I would just want to point out the important direction that I think a lot of people actually missed. So why this approach? As I say, it's the most efficient way. After we launched in July the 4th last year, it's a good timing. We got thousands of users. It's not really a big number, but compared to any DeFi, any dApps, that's a good number. And it's go much more faster than any privacy-related products, because you can use the network effect of Twitter and Facebook. You can actually spend on Facebook or Twitter, and without being noticed or without being let them have a chance to ban you. And you can create the most programmable and open data ecosystem, because everything you post on Facebook and Twitter from the moment you install Maskbook will be encrypted. And then it will generate the largest amount of encrypted data or digital asset from the general public. Then what is the relationship between this thing we're building for years, like 2 years from now, and Ethereum and DAO? I guess we have to figure out, okay, what is a DAO first, or what is the thing we're against, what is the thing we want to endorse? As you may heard from books from Radical Market or other economists, people use the word data labor or digital labor to refer the current situation that we spend our time on Facebook and let them steal our data. So if data is somehow equivalent, as labor, surely there will be a data union or data DAO homebrewed by our approach. What do we know about the traditional labor union and the digital labor? So why this thing, like a simple plugin or software, can be a labor union? The first, this is thing that really related to the DAO, that the traditional labor, as we now, Andrew Carnegie's factory and his workers in 200 years ago, this is a simplified chart about how the thing works. You see the workers on the top left side, and you see the factory of Andrew Carnegie, with respect of CMU, but it's a really bad factory in Pittsburgh on the top right side, and you see the money that's created by the state government on top. And you see the free market of the goods of the commodities, and you see the government and banks in the middle. Well, that thing is stable that thing being exists for 300-400 years, and not until 100 years ago, they have a huge problem with people like Karl Marx and the left-wing economists and left-wing movement, labor union movement. Then they have problem, and there's some a revolution inside. Then they changed. So what is happening right now for the data labor is exactly the same thing. The user become the labor, and the database somewhere in the Iceland, somewhere in some offshore company, offshore island, become the factory. And the mobile phone and the laptop become the way to produce that data. Still, the money is the same thing. Still, the US dollar is still the fiat money. So I guess if I am Satoshi back in 2007, 2008, I look at this chart, I will figure out, okay, we can do something about the money part, right? We can replace that thing with the Bitcoin. And for the money policy, we can do the DeFi stuff. We can create our own stable coin for the money policy. And for the device producing data, we can use the secure phone like HTC Exodus or some phone with the encryption software. And for storage, probably we can use IPFS or Solid by Tim Berners-Lee. Seems like this solved the problem that by creating a new digital currency back in 2008 by Satoshi, right as the year of the financial crisis in 08, that we maybe can evolve the money policy like DeFi, and we evolve the free market for data. We evolve the better tools for the laborers, for the workers, for the users. Seems like the problem is solved. But what is happening right now is, okay, you can do the 5 minutes. I know you can do the Bitcoin, but Facebook can do the Libra, and anyone can do their own blockchain, consortium chain or a private blockchain. And the digital data, digital assets stored in AWS and Google Cloud, and free market of data is actually controlled by Google Ads and Facebook Ads, and money policy is now kind of infected by PayPal, Visa, Master. They embraced digital revolution. They embraced things like internet. They also embrace things like blockchain, but in a different manner. So it seems like the whole revolution is not really working well. I mean, in my opinion, that's what Satoshi want to prevent, not like BSV, right? And the best thing is when we take the nationalism inside that, we can put a flag there, like Chinese flag or U.S. flag. That will be a huge mess. That people in the government will put different people in different lists, put someone in the sanction list to prevent them from using some tools. And for now, they can't do it on blockchain, but I mean, they already do it for SWIFT for bank system. So I guess seems like this direction is pretty bad right now. And how can we fix it? Use DAO or use Maskbook, use Ethereum, use the thing we built before. I guess I would like to introduce another thing I did in the past. This is the thing I did in 2019, Anti-996. The 96 ICU is a movement in China, digital labor movement from the programmers community that people condemn the mainstream, like a large internet corporation for working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. So they really don't happy about that. So they want to draft a license called Anti-996 license. And if I wrote the open source software, I put license on that. So if the company uses that software and they don't obey the labor law, the copywriter actually can sue the company. So the traditional labor situation between the employee, engineers and the IT companies on the left. It's on the left side. Only the employee and the companies. But now with the help of the license, we got the copyright owner, we got the labor administration department and the copyright office, and that can be multinational, which means a labor in US can be sued by European Union, software engineer because he wrote the open source software. We use that license. But it seems like that's not doable because it still rely on the legal system in today. That's super, fragile and super volatile due to the, international relationship. So what if we actually did a data union, like labor union or DAO? So in my opinion, I think the DAO is very similar to union because obviously DAO don't really make any money, and you take money. And they take money and fight for something that we all know is wrong, like data problem or labor, working hours problem. So I guess what we're trying to do, not only with Maskbook, but also with Ethereum, with all people in the Web3, stablecoin, is we try to create a layer on top of the Facebook, on top of Twitter, like create a layer on top of the Web2. Maybe you call it Web3, but it can be other names. And that layer will be like a DAO. And anything you post through that DAO to Facebook and Twitter will be encrypted. And the red pocket you post on Twitter, Facebook is not viewable by Twitter and Facebook. So all the things is using their infrastructure, but unfortunately don't give them access. So it's like protesting inside the factory of Mr. Andrew Carnegie back in 200 years ago. And in order to form a proper, organized way to doing the protesting, we need to have some foundation, need to have a way for fundraising. But I would like to compare the DAO to union. I guess for me, a digital DAO for digital labor is the same thing as labor union back in the time of Andrew Carnegie and J.P. Morgan. So the users now they're turning into laborers. So I guess we need a DAO. We need a labor union for all the digital labors. And I guess we can refer platform like Signal, like Status.im as cooperative, and refer approach like us as a labor union. I guess we need to help each other and use the ecosystem we have, use the infrastructure we have to really do a revolution inside Facebook, inside Twitter, without let them ban us or without let them have a chance to ban us, or it's not possible to ban us. Yeah, that's my speech. And if you're on Telegram, you can scan the QR code and join or search Maskbook group to join our Telegram group. And you just go to maskbook.com on a laptop. There's an extension ready to use for your Chrome and Firefox browser.